On the night of February 20th, 2026, deep inside Russia, an explosion tore through one of the most heavily guarded defense plants on Earth. This wasn't a drone. This wasn't a Western-supplied missile. This was something Russia never saw coming. It's built by a team of architects, game designers, and construction workers in a secret Ukrainian factory. This is the story of how Ukraine just changed the entire war and why Putin's generals are terrified right now. Let's put this in perspective. Votkinsk, Russia, a city in the Ural Mountains, so deep inside Russia that it sits closer to Kazakhstan than it does to Ukraine. For decades, Moscow considered this city untouchable. The Votkinsk Machine Building Plant has been making weapons of mass destruction since 1957. This isn't just any factory. This is the heart of Putin's nuclear deterrent. The Iskander, the missile Russia has been raining down on Ukrainian cities for 4 years, comes from this factory. So does the RS-24 Yars, a nuclear ICBM capable of reaching Washington, D.C. So does the Oreshnik, Putin's newest hypersonic threat, and the Bulava, launched from nuclear submarines.
Ow.
They all come from this one factory. Russia poured billions into making this place bomb-proof, air defense-proof, and untouchable. They were so confident in its safety that workers ran 3 full shifts around the clock, 7 days a week. They were wrong. To understand why this strike is historic, you need to know who built this missile. The story is almost impossible to believe. The FP-5 Flamingo is designed and built by a Ukrainian defense startup called Firepoint. The founders were not career military men. They were not aerospace engineers. They were construction workers, architects, and game designers. A group of friends. After Russia's full-scale invasion in 2022, they decided to build a cruise missile. The numbers are staggering. The Flamingo has a range of 3,000 kilometers, meaning it can reach virtually any target in Russia. Its warhead weighs 1,150 kilograms. It's 2.5 times heavier than the warhead on an American Tomahawk missile. This thing doesn't just punch, it demolishes. The fuselage is built from radar-transparent composite fiberglass, making it harder for Russian air defense to detect. The engine was repurposed from old Ukrainian civil aviation aircraft. These men built a monster missile out of recycled parts. It worked. By August 2025, Ukraine revealed the Flamingo to the world. By October 2025, it fired its first combat shots. By March 2026, Firepoint was producing 3 of these missiles every single day. With a target of 210 missiles per month, and 2,500 per year. Russia was about to have a very serious problem. Now let's go back to the night it happened. Somewhere on a frozen Ukrainian field, a small team of soldiers worked fast. They had minutes, not hours. Every second increased the risk of a Russian counterstrike. A reconnaissance team arrived first to prepare the field. An icy patch of farmland transformed into a launch site. Then the launchers arrived, massive, powerful, and silent, until they weren't. One soldier described the moment of launch. When that booster roars, the ground disappears from under your feet. The missiles launched, boosters detached, engines ignited. Multiple cruise missiles were screaming northeast at 600 kilometers per hour, climbing to cruise altitude. The launch crew didn't wait. Vehicles were packed up and the entire launch site vanished in minutes. The missiles flew northeast through the night, deep into Russian territory, threading through radar coverage. Russia's air defense network is vast, but designed to track threats from outside its borders. Two 400 book systems are optimized for high-altitude threats or threats coming from the outside. A low-radar signature cruise missile flying a complex route at an altitude calibrated to avoid detection. And it worked. February 21st. Just after midnight local time. Residents of Votkinsk heard explosions. Then they saw fire, the kind of fire that doesn't come from accidents. Massive, industrial, uncontrolled, Russian. Authorities scrambled immediately. Local officials confirmed an incident at one of the facilities. Meanwhile, on social media, footage was everywhere. Workshops 22 and 36 were burning. A hole 30 meters wide and 24 meters tall had been torn open in Building 19. This critical workshop is where missile body components are machined, coated and prepared for final assembly. Satellite imagery from Copernicus confirmed the damage within 24 hours, the shift working when those missiles hit. Russia said 11 people needed medical treatment. But analysts pointed out something chilling. A single shift can have more than 100 workers. The lights inside the workshop were on when the missile hit. It was operating at full capacity. Within days, President Zelenskyy confirmed the strike and chose his words carefully. He said every missile launched reached its target, not some all of them. He wouldn't say how many were fired. He acknowledged some were intercepted by Russian air defense. But the ones that got through hit exactly what they were aimed at. This was the deepest successful precision strike Ukraine had carried out in the entire war. Over 1,400 kilometers inside Russia, against a factory producing nuclear weapons components since 1957. And Ukraine did it with a missile built by architects and game developers in a secret factory. Donnie Stellerman, co-founder of Firepoint, posted video of the launches on social media that same night, with a caption that read only, "No context." The context came within hours. Russia, meanwhile, said almost nothing. State media downplayed the damage. The Kremlin went quiet. And when Russia doesn't respond loudly, it means the hit hurt badly. Here is why military analysts across NATO are calling this a game changer. Russia's missile production isn't infinite. It runs on specific factories, supply chains, and workshops. Votkinsk isn't just a facility, it's a critical node. Damage it, and you don't just destroy equipment. You slow the production of every Iskander, Oreshnik, Yars, ICBM. Every Iskander that can't roll off that line is potentially one Ukrainian apartment block that doesn't get leveled. One family that doesn't lose everything. Russia has hammered Ukraine's power grid to less than half its pre-war capacity. In winter, half of Kyiv's apartment buildings lost heating. Zelenskyy said it plainly. There is not a single power plant in Ukraine that Russia has not attacked. The Flamingo is Ukraine's answer, not just a weapon, but a message. You hit our cities, we hit your factories. And Votkinsk was not the beginning, it was the culmination of a pattern. On February 8th, Ukraine hit the Kapustin Yar missile test range deep in Russia. On February 12th, a major ammunition depot near Volgograd was struck, triggering massive explosions. Ukraine had been building its targeting list, refining tactics, walking the Flamingo toward bigger targets, each strike a proof of concept. Each explosion a message to Moscow. Zelenskyy also confirmed something chilling. Russia is hunting the Flamingo production facilities. Russian satellites are searching for Firepoint's secret factories. Russian drones are probing for launch sites. Because Moscow understands what the West has been slow to say out loud. If Ukraine can produce 2,500 of these missiles per year, the entire logic of Russia's invulnerable deep rear collapses. Inside the Kremlin right now, a calculation is being made. For 4 years, Russia operated on one foundational assumption. The Ukrainian military cannot reach us, not here, not 1,400 kilometers inside Russia, not at the plant that builds our nuclear arsenal's components. That assumption is dead, and the implications run deeper than one factory. If Ukraine can hit Votkinsk, what is next? The Oreshnik production line? The ICBM assembly facilities further east? The fuel production plants? Russia now has to protect thousands of kilometers of previously undefended industrial territory. Diverting S-400 systems from the front lines, resources from offensive operations, money and military planning cycles, to a problem they thought didn't exist. Here's the bigger story this strike tells the world. In 2022, Ukraine had no domestically produced cruise missiles. None. In 4 years, a country at war built a 3,000-kilometer range cruise missile, with a warhead heavier than any Western equivalent, out of recycled aviation engines and fiberglass, and then used it to blow a 30-meter hole in the factory that builds Russia's nuclear-capable ballistic missiles. Zelenskyy was blunt about why this weapon was built. This weapon is designed to destroy factory facilities and military infrastructure. And the most important thing is that we can strike very deep, far beyond the front line. If Firepoint hits its production targets, and they have hit every milestone so far, Ukraine will, by the end of 2026, have the capacity to strike deep into Russia at scale. Not once, not occasionally, systematically. One missile, one workshop, one night. And the entire calculus of this war just shifted. The damage to Votkinsk, as devastating as it is symbolically, has not stopped production. Russia is resilient. The Kremlin still has resources. The war machine still turns. But Ukraine is not finished. It has barely started. The question isn't whether Ukraine can strike Russia's interior. February 20th proved they can. The question now is how many more Flamingos are in the air tonight? Which factory is next on the list? And at what point does Russia have to make a choice it has been desperately trying to avoid? A war that started with Russia believing it would conquer Ukraine in 72 hours has now produced a Ukraine that reaches 1,400 kilometers into Russian territory and strikes the factory that builds nuclear-capable missiles. Putin underestimated Ukraine from the very first day. He is still making that mistake. So here's what I want to know from you. Ukraine now has a domestically produced cruise missile. With a 3,000-kilometer range and fire point says production is scaling fast. What do you think the next target will be? Does this strike change the trajectory of the entire war? Drop your answer in the comments below, and if you think the world needs to know about the Flamingo, share this video right now, because this is one of the most important military developments of 2026. Most people have never heard of it. If you are new here, subscribe and hit the bell. We cover the stories that matter with the detail they deserve, and the next video drops soon. On the full axis of upheaval and what the Russia-China and North Korea alliance means for the next phase of this war,